It is March the 9th, 2025, and we are pleased to be talking to Father Gid. So I guess we'll let you start by telling us, I believe you have Mississippi in your background?
Yes.
So tell us about that.
Well, I'm from Ole Miss. I went to Ole Miss. I'm from Greenwood, Mississippi. And born and raised in Greenwood, Mississippi. You went to school there and then went on to Ole Miss.
Of course, things have changed somewhat, but in the 50s and 60s, Ole Miss was almost synonymous with Jim Crow and the greatest violence.
Right.
And I believe you witnessed some of that as they integrated the university.
Yeah, I was at Ole Miss when we had the James Meredith riots, and they moved the Ole Miss Kentucky game to Jackson. So I didn't have a car, so I caught a ride to Jackson, and then it was so crowded and all the stuff that was going on with Ross Barnett, the governor, who was a big segregationist. So I just decided to catch a ride back to campus, and I was able to do that. And then got back to my dorm, went to sleep, and then people were running down the hall shouting, "The marshals are here! The marshals are here!" And they surrounded the Lyceum, which is the registration building and offices. And then, so I went down, standing in the crowd, and somebody threw a rock or half a brick or something at the marshals and hit one of them, and then he had a tear gas gun, and then he just pulled it down and shot a canister into the crowd, and then that's when everything broke loose. So it just went downhill from there.
Well, Meredith survived and the institution survived. And,
Yeah.
An interesting thing about that was Ross Barnett really sort of fell to the moment. He had been moderate prior to that, and then suddenly he's out there flaming on the farthest segregation that he'd never been before.
Right. And his motto was, "Roll with Ross. He's his own boss." So I knew his son, but I really didn't know him. His son was an attorney in Jackson, and I never really had much contact with him other than just to say hello. Yeah, it was, and you could walk across campus for a week or so and you'd hit a tear gas pocket, and it was like, oh gosh, and bring tears to your eyes, which you're supposed to do, I guess. And then the Army showed up, the National Guard showed up, and sort of tried to secure things. And the campus was locked down. My father tried to get in to come get me, and they wouldn't let him in. The streets into the campus were blocked.
Did you go into classes in the normal way?
No, the classes were called off. And the classes didn't start, I don't really remember, but like 2 weeks later, something like that.
Well, in the old days, classes started at about the middle of September, didn't
Right.
they? And you'd have like a football game, and then you'd go to class, which is a disaster.
Right.
For talking about a wild weekend and no classes on the football.
That's right. That's right. But I don't know when the football returned to sort of a normal schedule. I don't remember that. I just remember that the Ole Miss Kentucky game was moved, and then I left Jackson and went back to campus.
When did you decide to become a priest?
Well, I was practicing law in Jackson.
So you were not thinking about the priesthood as a student.
I was not taking the priesthood was the last thing in my mind. I didn't even go to church. So I joined the cathedral in Jackson, Mississippi, and started attending church. And the short version of it is I just got called by God to start exploring the priesthood. Started meeting with the Bishop of Mississippi, Bishop Gray, who was very instrumental in shepherding James Meredith into campus through registration. And
This is Temple Gray,
there have been several Grays. His father was a bishop. The Gray that I knew was a bishop, and his son was a bishop.
Yeah, and I believe the son was the pastor at the Episcopal Church when I was visiting there.
Really?
Yeah.
Right. Nice guy.
Yes. Yeah.
But I don't know. Just sort of, God wouldn't leave me alone. So finally, I started into the process in the Diocese of Mississippi. And it was about a 2-year process. And then finally, Bishop said, well, yeah, I guess you're going to have to go to seminary. I said, well, yes, sir. So off I went.
And that was University of South, did you go?
I went to Swanee.
Swanee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where all of us in Mississippi went.
Yeah. I remember class of students, the kids were always so polite, but I remember trying to get them talking, and I said, Mississippi's not a particularly large state, and it doesn't have any real big cities.
No.
And this boy said, we do, there's Memphis and New Orleans.
Many trips to Memphis and many trips to New Orleans. Memphis was where my family went Christmas shopping. Because they had, back in the day, they had the great department stores with elevators and a restaurant. And so it was fun for me to do window shopping while my parents did Christmas shopping.
Now as a historian, I'm interested in the next question, because I've had to answer it myself, is how did you as a white Southerner get right with the Civil Rights Movement?
Well, I did, it's a good question. I did voter registration work and got kind of involved in the political scene a little bit and just supporting various candidates here and there. But the main thing was the voter registration work. And somebody said, well, you're afraid. I said, well, not really. I just don't want my mother to find out. But I did that for a couple of years, and it was very gratifying, and it actually changed my views on race. In other words, realized that that the stance in Mississippi pretty much was wrong, and so that was a rude awakening.
Painful realization that your parents and grandparents are wrong.
Because I was raised in a, all-white community. Schools were not segregated at the time, and I made some African American friends, and that was a big step for me.
Yeah, this happened at the university, you mean?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Of course, Jackson's a fairly black city, so if you were
Yes, it is.
You were practicing law there, you would at least see black people a lot. And,
yes.
Yeah. University of South Carolina was integrated prior to my coming, but only 3 kids.
Yeah.
And so I was really with the first one summer. Lyndon Johnson had a program for kids to get a start in college, and we were in basically a black dormitory. And that was quite a revelation.
Absolutely.
For me and my best friend.
Right.
Yeah. Were your parents liberal at all on race relations?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Were your parents liberal on race relations?
Yes.
Yeah, so that would itself be unusual.
Right.
Yeah. Mother was, Daddy wasn't.
Right.
And so that made sort of complicated childhood.
It's very complicated, and all I knew was the 2 African American ladies that worked for us, Josephine and Minnie, and in many ways they were my best friends.
Yeah.
because they raised me.
Yeah, I think that's, there was a Deese, we called her Deese, Hester
Right.
Jervey raised me, and mother could not evince any real warmth, and so Deese could. And she was to the children a kind of a mother. And,
Right.
I think a lot of white Southern kids had exactly the same experience.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh.
I mean, all my friends did. You know, it was, we all were raised that way.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, looking back on it, I realized that it wasn't right.
No, it was, Hester was a trained nurse, but she, my goodness, the hours she put in were, and I don't know what she was paid, but it wasn't much.
Oh, gosh, no.
And she was expected
Not
to do,
much at all. And,
expected to do an awful lot. Yeah.
yeah. Josephine started working for my family, at first my grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
And she started working with them when she was like 13. And she couldn't read.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody ever taught her to read, which was just a travesty.
Mm-hmm.
And but I loved her, and she loved me. And when I would get home from school, she always had a little snack for me. Yeah, she could not have been paid much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the move there from slavery to sharecropping to some kind of working class relationship
Right.
was really a very gradual thing. You know, there were elements of slavery all the way
Right.
through, and really slow.
Yeah. Well, Greenland was divided by the railroad tracks.
Mm-hmm.
On one side, it was pretty much 90% African American,
Mm-hmm.
and the other side of the railroad tracks was all white. And so for African American persons to come work in the white side of the railroad tracks, they had to be picked up because there was no bus system. So, you know, that was an experience for me. Once I learned to drive, got my driver's license, to go into that side of town, into the neighborhood, to see exactly what was going on. But I had no idea growing up, you know.
You didn't realize how severe the poverty was till you drove over there
Yes.
and saw it. Yeah. I was born in a mill village, and it had to have a railroad to get the cotton
Right.
and take it back. And one side of it was the black farmers, and there were a bunch of them.
Right.
And the other side, there were no black people in the mill.
That's interesting.
Well, it was strictly segregated. The county was heavily
Right.
black, but no black people in the mill. And that changed when I went to work there. But we're talking about 1970.
Right. Right.
Before then, it was strictly white institution. Well, where was your first post as a priest?
It was interesting enough. It's called Episcopal Church of the Creator, and in Clinton, Mississippi, which is a bedroom community for Jackson. They would probably be insulted at Jackson if me calling them a bedroom community.
Yeah.
But I was there. Then I had two churches. One church was in a double-wide trailer as a mission, and then I went to Raymond, Mississippi, and that church was used as a hospital by the Yankees. And when they redid the church, they didn't refinish the floors because they would tell the people coming through that they were stepping on Yankee blood.
Yes.
So, and had to open the windows, and so you had wasps flying around during the service. And I never got stung, but it worried me a lot. But so the two churches were separated by like 12 miles. So I would have to jump into my car with my vestments on to make it on time to the other church. But that was my start. And then I went to Auburn, Alabama, and then I went to St. Anne's in Annapolis, Maryland. And I was there for like 15 years, and that's when I retired from there. And Annapolis is beautiful.
Yeah.
Very historic, obviously.
And more cosmopolitan than Mississippi.
Very.
And,
Well, you had signers of the Declaration of Independence that belonged to St. Anne's.
and I suppose, did that church integrate itself successfully, or?
Yes. So, and then when I was in Clinton, I had a youth group, and some of the members of the youth group were from Tuskegee. And so that was a rude awakening for many people at that church. And so Auburn and Tuskegee were very close together.
Tell me about Auburn.
It's college town.
Yeah.
They love football.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I had to keep my mouth shut because I went to Ole Miss.
Yeah.
And
Not supposed to have done that.
And, so I told myself I'm not going to take sides between Auburn and Alabama.
That's hard to do in Alabama.
Yeah. So, during exam week, had lots of students to come in and pray to help themselves get through exams. And I thought to myself, well, maybe I shouldn't tell them they should have studied, but instead of praying. But
that's funny.
Yeah, but it was a good place. I enjoyed it very much. I love being in a college town, and there was a lot of opportunity for continued studies and seminars, and Auburn's a good place.
Yeah. Did you meet Wayne Flint?
Sorry.
Wayne Flint, did you meet him? He was an Auburn professor of history, and interestingly grew up in sharecropper. And in immense poverty, and I think he went to Florida State and became very fine.
Wow.
Very fine historian there at Auburn. I guess he had more PhD students than any other Auburn professor. And had his own story about rising from poverty and becoming part of the civil rights movement.
Very powerful.
Very Baptist.
Yeah.
I think his dad may have been a minister. So, well, you know what I don't know, did Auburn integrate successfully, or did it do like
I don't know.
Ole Miss or Alabama?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it must have gone fairly peacefully, or I would have known it as a historian, because you know the bad stories.
Yeah.
You know the Ole Miss, you know Alabama, you know those stories, and maybe Wallace didn't get personally involved like he did at Tuscaloosa.
He must not have. He must not have gotten personally involved. Yeah. And there was not a story about him, at Auburn.
At Ole Miss, though, was David Sansing, a good historian, and he was particularly following the Meredith days.
Right.
And he discovered that a great deal of it was more theatrical than we realized, that the marshals met with Ross Burnett's people, and Ross Burnett wanted to make his stand and then be forced out of the way, but he didn't really want there to be violence.
Right.
So the marshals were to tap their holsters as if they were going to get their guns, and at that point Ross Burnett would leave. But it didn't really work because violence did come.
Yeah.
And but the whole thing was with Kennedy's and Burnett's work was supposed to be a kind of theater where it would come off without violence. But I suspect you cannot actually do something so momentous as integrate a university and pretend to resist it without making some of the resistors play it for real.
Well, James Meredith was walked to the Lyceum
Mm-hmm.
building, which again is the registration building, by Duncan Gray, who at the time was rector
Mm-hmm.
of the Episcopal Church in Oxford.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, that's hand in hand.
Mm-hmm. That was very courageous.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
he walked James Meredith right into in registration into the university.
Mm-hmm. So if now the Episcopal Church is not particularly large in Oxford. It's
It's not particularly large, but
Yeah.
that's right. But it's a beautiful church.
Oh, it is. Yeah, yeah. And I guess it always tended to be progressive in
Absolutely.
most things. And that Gray family was, as you were noting,
Right.
tended to be reformist and quite courageous in their actions. Do you think Mississippi got a bad rap for the 60s? Do you think they were?
That's a good question, and I'm not sure I have a good answer. I don't think they got a bad rap. I think the truth comes through, and Mississippi was very segregated,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, when I was doing voter registration work, I was, you know, going into churches
Mm-hmm.
to encourage them to vote and to register,
Mm-hmm.
and in many ways I was not getting very far
Mm-hmm.
because they were scared.
Well, for good reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think they got a bad rap.
Yeah. Well, that's painful admission, but probably South Carolina was, of course, there are regional differences.
Right.
Greenville was less racist, say, than Georgetown, but I think it may have got off the hook a little bit. There was
Right.
violence. I think the number of black people killed was about the same in the lynchings.
Right.
We have lynching trees here, and things were certainly utterly segregated.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, one difference is Ernest Hollings, the governor, said, he gave a speech and said, I don't know if the Supreme Court is the law of the land, but it is the fact of the land, and we're
Right.
going to obey it. And that made a great difference in
Right.
having a governor who was at least being pragmatic instead of showboating.
Right.
Tell me about divinity school, about
Tell me
Sewanee.
about what?
Divinity school, Sewanee.
Oh, wonderful.
Who was your greatest influence?
Well, seminary in Swanee is wonderful,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, I love living there,
Mm-hmm.
and it was intellectually stimulating, very religious, and instilled in me many good things about worshiping Christ and God and becoming a priest. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'm so thankful for being at Swanee. It's Southern, of course.
Yes.
So that was important too.
It is the University of the South.
Right, right. You know, I wanted General Seminary in New York,
Uh-huh.
so but I loved it. It was great, and my family loved it.
Mm-hmm.
So we were all there and living on campus and in you know, campus housing,
Mm-hmm.
and it was great.
Did you ever read William Alexander Percy, Lanterns on the Levee?
Yes.
Well, he's fond of.
He's from Greenville, I think.
Yeah. He's the Delta itself, the deep
Right.
Delta, and
Right.
but he writes about the University of the South.
Yeah. And what's the hymn that he wrote?
Oh goodness, it is beautiful. We heard it just last week.
We did, didn't we?
Yeah. The peace of God is no peace, but strife closed in the.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
It's wonderful.
He was, we now know apparently was gay, and he was, for his era, really progressive on race relations.
Right.
Though if you read him now, people will say, well, this is just standard segregation stuff.
Right.
But he did go personally against the Klan, one guy.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And
Yeah.
then his father, Leroy, the senator, He had earlier stood against the Klan, so they had a history of great courage.
Yes.
And in fact, Episcopal priests have a pretty good record
Yes, we do.
in the South with regard to civil rights.
Right.
It's not Martin Luther King Jr., but for white boys, pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of Duncan Grays.
Yes, yeah, yes, yeah.
His father, Duncan Gray, who ordained me, and then his son.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Tell me about changes you saw in the Episcopal Church. We suddenly ordained women. And,
Wonderful.
tell me about your process going through that.
Well, it's just, we went through the change in the prayer book.
Yes, yes.
From the 28 book to 79 book.
79. Mm-hmm.
And it was enlightening, challenging, but wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I was ordained with the first female priest in the Diocese of Mississippi. We were ordained together.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's history.
yes.
Yeah.
So
Because Mississippi
was
was
great.
not only racist but quite sexist, and there was a role for ladies that was probably as clearly defined as possibly could be.
Right.
And then, of course, when we had the gay bishop, Gene Robinson,
Yes.
well, you were active as a priest when that happened.
Yeah. Oh yes.
And,
And it's fantastic to have a gay priest at that time.
yeah,
Of
course, we'd had
well.
hundreds, but they had to be in the closet. And I guess there's even a phrase, wasn't there? You couldn't be practicing. You
Right.
had to be celibate if you were gay.
Yes.
And a remarkable stricture to put
Yes.
on humans. Give me a contrast between the Annapolis Episcopalians and the Greenwood Episcopalians.
Well, as I said, the Annapolis Episcopalians lived in history.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, signers of the Declaration, as I said earlier,
Mm-hmm.
were members of St. Anne's,
Mm-hmm.
Annapolis, I think there were 3.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was the third structure, first structure burned. I think they tore down the second one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, really great historic parish. And so in Annapolis, it's just a college town, football town.
Mm-hmm.
So there's really not very much in common,
Mhm.
except the Episcopal Church.
And football.
And football, and football.
Yeah.
Right. Well, of course, you got the Naval Academy
Yeah.
in Annapolis,
Mm-hmm.
and that was wonderful. And the Naval Chapel is beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's what's in common.
Did you have interaction with the cadets?
I'm sorry,
Did you have interaction with?
not really. I think back in the day they were required to come to church,
Mm-hmm.
and they would march to church, is what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
But didn't have any interaction with the cadet. I didn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, when did you come here?
Been here, 15 years. And and met my wife here.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
Cindy.
Tell me about that.
Oh, we were, she was acolyte warden
Uh-huh.
at St. Anne's, and I was on the staff, and we got to know each other because she was at worship every Sunday, ramrodding acolytes, and we had about 60 acolytes.
Goodness. Yes, well, that's more than we had.
And so, one thing and another, and we got married. But
Was she a Marylander or a Mississippian?
oh no, she's from Maryland,
Uh-huh.
and you can talk to her about the Terps basketball.
Uh-huh.
They're going into the year-end tournament, so
Uh-huh.
and we always watch Maryland when we played basketball.
That's funny. I went to Chapel Hill. We occasionally got excited about basketball too.
We won't talk about that.
I've become a women's basketball fan.
Oh,
Because
yes.
of Tom Staley, so I barely know. The other day, Duke beat Carolina, and I didn't even break
Right.
into tears like normal.
Right.
Because Dom's winning.
Right.
Tell me more about this place, about this church.
About what?
This church, as you got into it.
Well, when I moved here, I was retired.
Mm-hmm.
And Cindy was retired from 33 years of teaching middle schoolers. So this, and my closest and best friend, Bill Hethcock, he's dead now.
Mm-hmm.
They had a place here, just like a mini hotel on the beach. And so they worshiped here. And when we moved here, he said, "You will worship." With us when we were in town, because we were here on vacation, we didn't go to church.
Yeah.
So it would just have, Cindy and I now been in charge of fellowship almost since we got here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't remember the bit where y'all were serving the food and organizing things.
Right. Will Keith kind of said, "Hey, I got a job for y'all." And I was like, "Really?" I've been a sucker before, but no, we've enjoyed being in charge of fellowship, and we've enjoyed being here and meeting people, and that's one of the things we really like about this church is that it's easy to meet people.
It is.
And folks are very faithful, and so that's been a real bonus for us.
When Tommy Tipton was there.
Tommy Tipton, I do know him, and in fact, I think I sat next to him at Bill Hethcock's funeral.
Oh.
But I don't really know him. I just know who he is, and like I said, I spoke to him at the funeral and visited with him shortly.
Well, he was human and had flaws, but I don't think we'd have a church if he had not pulled things back together after the embezzlement that he suffered. But
we all have flaws.
Oh yes, but he was very useful to Father Will, because this is sort of a tough assignment.
Right.
Given it's a wonderful assignment, there's a lot of challenges.
Right.
And Tommy tipped him off ahead of time and gave him useful advice.
Yeah.
What's your favorite Episcopal hymn?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess it's I sing a song of the Saints of God.
Yeah, that is a wonderful one.
Yeah.
That was Mother's favorite.
Okay.
And then I don't go against Mother even in her death, so that's my favorite too. Yeah. She
we sing it every baptism.
Yes. Yeah. So, are there any things you'd like to add to what we've said?
No, it's been a joy, and I appreciate your asking me, and I've really enjoyed visiting with you and sort of with Marsh. We haven't visited much because he's busy, but it's great. Thank you very much
Well, thank you
for including me.
Yes.